Our beavers have survived their first drought, but now they're faced with an even more difficult challenge to overcome: the inexorable march of time. Today, we'll tackle old age by addressing our housing crisis, allowing our population to grow. But it's not enough to just survive. To meet our goals, our beavers need to thrive. We'll expand our leisure options from none to fun, and then we'll venture across the river to start expanding our beavers' diets. So, without further ado, welcome back to Tutopolis. Is that what this is called? We are on our second cycle. We survived our first drought. The very first thing we need to do here is reduce these working hours back down to 16. Because without that, our beavers will not be able to participate in leisure activities and sleep, and that is the focus of this episode. Alright, so we have 117 logs here, which is going to be probably more than enough. So to start, we're going to extend our little area out here. As we can see, we've started losing beavers to old age, and that is just going to continue forever. So what we need to fix that is we're going to need to build lodging. The folktales will generate new beavers by having open beds for beavers to sleep in. As long as there's an open bed, a new baby will be born. So to begin, we're going to start building these lodges over here in this open area. We can just build on top of these old stumps. That is not going to be an issue. But what I do want to do is I do want to build an area, since we're working on improving our beavers' well-being. I want to build an area that is not going to only have lodges for them to sleep in. It's also going to have areas for them to improve their well-being. So for that, we're going to go down here to well-being. And the most obvious one here is going to be the campfire. This is the most basic well-being building. We're going to put that right here on the end of this path. And we are going to let these beavers build it. Oh, and before I forget, I've just remembered that there is no one in our lumber mill, so I am going to pause something. Probably that. There we go. And Jeunya is going to go back into the lumber mill because they're the star of this show. Okay. So this campfire, it ground only, which doesn't matter right now. And it will improve social life campfire, which is one of these stats here. Social life campfire. They will come here once they do not have anything to do. If they're working and only 5 beavers can fit in here. So, since we have 11 beavers, we are going to build a second campfire. And for that, I'm going to build that just opposite of this one. And I'm going to build a path around. And then this little campfire area will serve as our centerpiece for our lodges. Now, the thought with putting the lodges back here is that it's fairly close to all of these jobs, but more importantly, it's close to the water and to the food, because they do need to walk from lodges to those places, to the water and to the food storage, and then to their job to be watered and fed. So we are just going to put them all in the same general area. So next we're going to do housing. We pull these lodges up, and I am going to explain the reason for doing this in a second, but I'm going to put 3 like this. Now, there's no rhyme or reason to me flipping those around in orientation. I just like them to be inconsistent like that because I think it looks a little more realistic. And then the other thing we're going to need is, for our well-being, we have these rooftop terraces. So in contrast to these campfires, which do need to be built on the ground, a rooftop terrace has to be built above ground. It can't be built right on the ground. It has to be built on a building like this, which is why we did 3 in a row here, because this takes 3. These buildings are 2. If I put 3 lodges in a row, I can get 2 rooftop terraces right next to each other. Now, if you are eagle-eyed, and if I move the camera a little bit so that that big pause isn't in the way, if you're eagle-eyed, you might spot a issue here, which is that the beavers have no way of getting up to these rooftop terraces. For that, we are going to need to unlock wooden stairs. Seems pretty obvious if you've ever, walked up a flight of stairs. So these are going to cost 70 science points. We have 230, so that's not going to be a problem. We're just going to slap one here, and then one here. That is going to take planks, which is why I restarted this lumber mill over here. I believe we have more than enough wood for all of this. We should have more than enough wood for all of this. But I'm going to build a path right over here, which will allow them to get onto those rooftop terraces. And I'm just going to actually mirror that on the other side for my own aesthetic reasons. These lodges only hold 3 beavers, as we can see here. So we're going to need at least, Kahamid has died of old age, so we're going to need at least 4 still. We're going to put the other ones, we're just going to mirror this on the other side, this exact pattern I've done. And again, there's no real reason for why I'm doing it this way, other than I just like the way it looks. It's functional, and I like it, and sometimes that's, that's what matters in this game. And then I am just going to set priority here. I'm going to take our priority markers and I'm going to make all of these high priority. I'm also going to make that one high priority. And then I'm going to make these 2 slightly lower priority, and I didn't mean to do that. That should continue to be high priority. I'm going to make these terraces a lower priority so that they should build up these houses in the meantime, and then get to these terraces and then those terraces, because there's no reason to build these until all this is done anyway. So yeah, we've had another beaver die of old age. Actually, 2... Oh no, just one more beaver. Just that one beaver has died of old age. So we are down to 10 beavers still. I believe that we should not have any more issues. All of these beavers are adults, but they're fairly young adults. They don't die until they're in their 50s or 60s. And from what I could see, the oldest one remaining was in their 40s. Ah, this is what I was wondering. These lumberjack flags are no longer able to cut anything down. So what I am going to do with that knowledge, across the river over here we've got some more resources. I'm just going to slap down another lumberjack flag and another gatherer flag. And then of course I do need to remember to go down here to cut trees and to mark trees for cutting, and then make sure that they're going to cut down these trees. Oh, and there's with most of our beavers having a house, our beavers' happiness is just skyrocketing there. And we have 2 more workstations, so we can knock this back down. So yeah, our beavers' happiness just skyrocketed. That will eventually help us in unlocking the iron teeth, but right now it just gives them, if I can click on one, it gives them a little bit faster work and speed, and they live longer. So that actually will be good with the fact that we had a bunch of our beavers dying. Oh, and we now have 2 open beds, as they've built this final lodge that we needed. So now every beaver has a bed, and there are 2 open ones, which means that we should, it might be after the next nighttime, we should see another beaver popping up. So I am just going to park the camera and give us the old fast forward. Okay, let's see. It's the next morning, and we still don't have any baby beavers, but we do have an injury. So an injured beaver is perhaps not what we wanted right now, because that is going to take another beaver away from the workforce. I don't even know where he was employed, but we should pretty much as soon as we can fix that, because he isn't working. Well, we need to fix this injury. It's down here under well-being. It is a medical bed. Now, this is going to eat into some of the science points that I wanted to use later on, but we don't have much of a choice right now. We need to fix this as soon as we can. There's not an exceptionally great place for this. I am just going to put it here, I guess. And then I'm going to mark that higher so that they build it and we don't have to deal with an injured beaver. So apparently this was all unnecessary. The injury has resolved itself and the beaver has gone back to work. But it will be good for the future to have this medical bed so that if a beaver does get injured, they can immediately seek medical attention and not have to wander around for a minute like that. And unfortunately, at this point, there is nothing left to do but wait. Aha, and did you spot it there? We now have a baby beaver. So this beaver is just going to take up resources and wander around for the time being, but Vei Kuaje over there will eventually grow up to be a productive member of society. For now, though, they are just going to take up space, I guess. Oh, and we have had a tragedy befall us. While we have generated more baby workers, we have fallen one final worker. And as we can see, that worker, that beaver, that citizen, that friend was Jayunya. They are now off in the big river dam in the sky. And, you know, sometimes that's just how survival games work. And I'm sure nobody cares nearly as much as I do. So I've paused this gatherer flag down here because of Jayunya's death. We are now down to 9 beavers that can work. And that does mean that we are going to... Well, until our beavers grow up, we're going to have to be kind of rationing off jobs here. I'm going to set this farmhouse to harvest priority, because right now we're just trying to get through the meantime with all these babies and not enough workers. So since we've lost Jayunya and we're down, well, I could take one of these builders off and put them on food, because quite frankly we're not building anything right now. But as we can see over here, we've got a fully planted, I don't know, orchard over here. And that means that Urex can get right off of that little lumberjack area, because they will not do anything if all this is planted. So we can actually reopen this gatherer flag for them. And until those babies grow up... Are we full on planks? We're almost full on planks. Might also... Actually, I am. I'm also going to turn off that lumberjack flag and throw that last beaver on the farmhouse. So we should have plenty of water. We will have plenty of food. Because right now my main priority is making sure that these 4 extra beavers who are just draining our resources don't drain our resources. I realize I never did explain how growing to adulthood works. Vikuajay over here is our oldest beaver that is not yet an adult. So he'll stay as a baby or a kit or whatever you want to call it for 6 days. This bar is showing how close they are to adulthood, so just this little bit needs to fill up. I assume that will be before the end of the workday here, but it could be after that. It might be when they go to bed. If we just watch, we'll speed this up a bit. And then, like magic, Vikuajay just absolutely pops off, becomes an adult, and now luckily does immediately gain employment because unfortunately another one of our beavers has died. But that does mean that we can start moving on with what we were doing. So now our remaining 3 beavers, our remaining 3 beavers should start all growing up in the same way that Vikuajay did. We will now allow a beaver to come over here and start cutting these trees down. We still have one over here cutting down these trees. But over here is actually the area I want to focus on. Because as we keep getting beavers that are growing up, we're going to start using up more food and more water. And right now we've got more than enough. But honestly, before the end of this episode, we're going to end up building more lodges and having more baby beavers. And we're going to need to prepare for that. So what we are going to do is we're going to come over here to the other side of the river. And we are going to start utilizing all of this extra arable land that we have. So what we're going to do, we're going to build another farmhouse. I am going to put that right here. Now we are going to start running into a problem here if we build much further than kind of this area, which is that if you click on a path, you'll see this green line, or what is over here a green line. That is the distance from the district center. That is going to largely represent how far of a trip it is for your beavers to get somewhere. These current builders, technically they work here, so they have to walk all the way down here to this building farmhouse and then back to wherever they're getting lumber to build the farmhouse. Now, luckily we do have a lumberjack right here, so that path is not that far. Otherwise, they would have to walk down this path all the way back up to this lumber yard and then all the way back down here to this farmhouse to build it. So you do need to think about distance like that when you're thinking about where to place buildings. Now, I do wish I had finished my whole spiel before they left, because I do need them to build more things. What we're going to build in this farmhouse is, they say, nothing to do in range. We're going to have this farmhouse plant potatoes. We could have it plant wheat, and we probably will have to plant wheat eventually, but right now... In the last episode, I said that carrots and sunflowers take nothing to turn into food. That's still true. Potatoes do have to be processed into food, but they don't take... They only have one step of processing. Wheat has 2 steps of processing. Potatoes just have to be cooked. Wheat has to be ground and then cooked. So we're going to plant a whole bunch of potatoes over here. I'm going to leave separation between the crops and surrounding cliffs like I like to do, just in case I need to put a path over around here or anything. And I'll just run a path, even though it's not really necessary. As we can see over here, this side of the path has gone red. That's just indicating that it is so many tiles away from the district center. Drought approaching, which is overall not going to affect us that much. I mean, we survived that first drought. I think the second drought might be a day longer, but ultimately it's not meaningful, the difference between the two. These potatoes are going to need somewhere to be stored, so we are just going to put that right here. Like I said, potatoes have 2 steps to be eaten, so we have potatoes and we have grilled potatoes here. They don't need regular potatoes out where they're eating, so we're going to make this storehouse just potatoes. And then to process those potatoes, we're going to need to make a grill. Now, you unlock grills at the very beginning. We are just going to put the grill back here. So now we have our grill here. It's saying initially that no recipe is selected. We're going to go down here to grilled potatoes and start that as the first thing that it's making. The other thing that we will need to think about here is grills not only take potatoes, but they also take logs. So I'm going to go down. So I'm going to go down here to storage, and I'm going to go to small pile, and I'm going to put a small pile here, and I'm going to make it store logs. These grills don't go through logs super quickly, so I'm hoping that just having one next to it will be more than enough logs stored there. All right, and the drought has started, which means I'm going to stop this water pump so that this can remain filled up as long as possible. And some of this might dry out. Yep. Ooh, a lot of it's going to dry out, but that should be fine. Ooh, nope. Those potatoes are going to die. So these potatoes are going to die before the drought is over, which I did not really... Actually, all of this is going to die before the drought is over. So that was a mistake on my part. Oops. Well, either way, these ones will still be alive and will still grow up. But that is what we call a mistake. Fast forward through this, and as we see, those potatoes are dying, which is, of course, not ideal. And I know what you're thinking, why didn't I just put them on the other side? It was because I didn't realize they would die so quickly. So in the meantime, while this drought is going on and absolutely decimating our stock of potatoes, we may as well invest in getting some more beavers. So we're just going to build some more lodges over here. I'm going to build them like that just because I feel like it. But I'm going to pause 2 of these lodges. If they're paused, then beavers won't be born to move into them. And I'm starting to worry about us expanding too quickly. If we build them and then pause them, then we can just reopen them once we want more beavers to be born. And a few of our potatoes are finishing growing, which is great. Those will be moved over here. We can see the whole machine working, I guess. Those potatoes will be moved actually to the farmhouse, and then once the farmhouse is full, to the storage. This beaver will come from the farmhouse to the grill. They will end up taking one of these logs, and they will start to grill the potatoes. As you can see, it's 1/10 of a log to 1 potato, which makes 4 grilled potatoes. And now this grill has plenty of space for grilled potatoes, but our beavers would have to walk all the way from over here down to our grill and then back to get those grilled potatoes, which is not a trip we want them to be making. So as always, we are just going to put down a grilled potato storage. And our beaver well-being has gone up to 9 because we have so much variety in their diet. And they all have places to sleep. So the drought has ended, and here comes the water right now. As we can see, we have 7 open beds. We have 5 baby beavers and 12 adults. Our beavers over here are going to finish planting these potatoes. But there is one more thing that we can do at the moment without spending very many science points. So if we go to our crops, we have carrot, sunflower, potato, and wheat, and those are all planted on arable land, just like we've already talked about. But we have 2 more here. We have cattails and spatterdocks. Cattails are just like wheat. There's a multi-step process before they are able to be eaten. But spatterdock is just like our potatoes over here, where it just requires a grill. So to build these spatterdocks, we're going to need to unlock this aquatic farmhouse. We have more than enough science. We have more than enough planks, more than enough wood. We are going to build that right over here. I'm going to place it this way just in case we do need to put another water pump down. And we are going to connect it up there. So the one other thing we'll need for our aquatic farmhouse is a way to get down into the water, because these crops are planted in the water. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to take a wooden stair and I'm going to build it there, and then I will get rid of some of these resources because I've built too many of them. So this will get built, it will fill up with workers, they'll walk down these stairs, and then they will plant those spatterdock. But what we will see once that is all done and they're able to walk into the water is that the beavers that work here will start to gain basic needs of wet fur. Now, wet fur requires walking straight through the water, or there is also a well-being building called a shower. It requires 10 logs and 1 plank. And we are going to build 2 of these. These will just function exactly like the campfires, where they will run on their own. If the beavers need to prioritize their wet fur, they will. The other thing we can do, we've got beavers that are over here on this side of the river. And right now they're walking over this bridge, which is all well and good and what we want them to do later on. Well, it's what we're going to want them to do once we get hit by a bad tide, but right now we've still got, I believe, 2 cycles before that'll happen. What we can do is we have an ending road right here. We can build stairs there. And we can take this road and we can do the same thing, build stairs here. And we can just run this road right across, and as we will see, this connection over here is currently red. Once we connect it up there, we've now shortened, well, once those stairs are built, we will have shortened the distance between this area and the district, because this path is shorter than walking all the way around up here. So there will be instances where beavers will walk down this water path and they will get that wet fur modifier. As long as they already have reason to go over here, they should do that. And down here we can see that we have a beaver planting our spatterdock, and right there their wet fur stat is going up. So that's going to make them even happier. They'll go from 11. No, they'll go from 10 to 11 because they were at 10 before. This spatter dock will take 12 days to grow. And then once it does, what we are going to do is we're going to bring it over here, and it is just going to get grilled the same as our potatoes. And because this one is so far away from this one, we're going to build more storage. That's the wrong one. Over here. And we're going to make that raw spatter dock. We're going to make this grilled spatter dock. And then, unlike this one, we're actually going to pause this because there's no reason for it to be open right now because the spatter dock's still growing. Okay, we're just going to build another storage and make it grilled spatter dock. Our beavers will gradually take care of that on their own. As we can see here, our showers have started to be built, which means that if they need to, they will be able to go over there and deal with their wet fur. And with that, our beavers now have a massive complex in which they live. They have expanded their eating opportunities. They are farming more than double what they were farming before at the end of the last episode. And I think that is where we're going to have to leave it. I do just have one more thing I want to do. Let's look. 10 appears to be our final well-being for the episode. As we can see, all of their basic needs are being met. We could perhaps use building another shower. We have expanded their palate. We have given them some social life opportunities. But our beavers still have more to face. We are 2 cycles away, well, 1.5 cycle away from a bad tide, which will not only cause all this water to go away, it will also kill all of our crops. We currently have an issue of these potatoes all dying out when there is a drought. And honestly, even if this water pump had been pumping last time, I think we still would have run into water issues, which means that we need to figure out more storage. But all that is an issue for next time when we start investigating dams, water storage, and all that good stuff. For right now, I do just ask that if you're enjoying this series, then please give it a like, maybe comment. Tell me how sad you are about Jeunya dying, which is probably not at all. If you have enjoyed the past 2 episodes, then please do consider subscribing because I'm going to keep making these until I stop. So, as always, Tutopolis will return. Goodbye.